in St. Elmo, Illinois. And boys and girls, I'm going to show you something. That tub is empty. That tub has been getting ground and quenched to make these spike knives right here. And they've got some residue on them from the super quench. And all these still have to be quenched, and all these, I've got like 13 of them here that need to be ground and quenched. So I'm planning on finishing this up today, and then I've got to get on a few other projects. Some stuff that I'm a little behind on, and I'm about 2 weeks behind from where I figured I would normally be behind, if that makes sense. And that happens sometimes when in these big operations here. At least that's what we used to say when I worked maintenance. Well, sometimes in these big operations. But if you guys haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so. I'm going to find some gloves. And I'm going to get going. Now, if you've been following these videos, there have been, we've got some upcoming festivals, and that's why I'm making all these. These are experiences that we offer here at our Forge of Memory location, making these railroad spike knives, because a lot of people, this is the first knife they make when they start forging. So here you get to make it with guidance on reasonably decent equipment. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start, see if I can get through these 13, and then we'll go from there. I've got some cool things coming up very soon. We've been busy. We've been at Turtle Island, Eustace Conway's Turtle Island Preserve from Mountain Men. We were there last weekend teaching. We've got an event coming up this weekend at Kinmundy Log Cabin Village. Elizabeth, we set up there doing some demonstration. On the following weekend, Hope and Austin from Pappy's Castle will be representing Axon Main Forge Memory at Kinmundy Log Cabin Village. And then going on up, I'm sure that Cheyenne will probably end up at the Pumpkin Patch south of town here locally. And we've the 17th, 18th, and 19th of October, we'll have we'll be down in Tennessee at Robbie Bowman's Forging Festival at Smoky Mountain Knife Works. And looking forward to seeing everybody again. So here we go, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, like and subscribe, hit that notification button. Now I'm just going to take a couple passes on this. It's already been profile ground. Laying in a bevel and kind of widening that out. Online, how's it going? And I'm going to go through and I'm going to lay in a secondary bevel. What blade? This is just kind of a drop point from a railroad spike. Here at Axon Main Forge and Memory, you can actually come in and forge your own blade. And I'm making some up as souvenirs that people can purchase at an upcoming festival. So this is my initial bevel, and this is where I'm at now. And I like a little wider bevel there. That'll be the primary. I'm still going to lay in a secondary bevel. get a nice wide bevel like that. Yes, yeah, sword TV, that would be another way to refer to that, yeah. There we go. All right, now on to the next piece. So a little shorter blade this time. And I tell people, I'm like, making these, it's really good practice to practicing your grinds, different blade shapes and so forth. So there is a method behind the madness. Laying in that initial bevel. This is just bringing it down to a point I can sharpen from. And I just keep feathering that back. So this one, kind of a longer, could be a clip if I put a clip on it. Now one thing you may notice, a lot of people think it takes a really long time to make knives or to do blacksmithing or to do metalworking. It doesn't take too long. Be sure to take the trail mixer. Laying in that first bevel and just going back and forth, really. guess it looks pretty decent. And my blade is thin. Progress here, and it's always coming down to the last piece where I just start getting tired going, man, where can I cut corners? And that's usually when I start turning out something that I don't want to. So even through repetition, through practice, if you will, we learn, but this is also developing motor skills, developing muscle memory, so that when I'm doing a high carbon steel hunting knife, that maybe I'm going to put an antler handle on or something like that, I apply these same techniques. Making pretty good progress. Now that's got kind of a long clip to it. Even that out just a little bit. lay in that secondary bevel there that'll actually sharpen up once I get to the point of sharpening. A couple steps down the road still. But personally, for a hunter, I just kind of like a drop point. It's a strong tip, it's functional, it's utilitarian. So I do make a lot of drop points. I also make a lot of clip points, do a lot of recurve. Just depends on the day. I like making knives, people. This is still kind of thick, so I think I'm going to go ahead and run that bevel out just a little bit more. I'm not gonna put too much work into this because I'm not gonna make that much money off of it. But I still want it to look good and I want it to function reasonable because my name's being attached. Now on this steel is a tough steel. It's not a really high carbon steel, but it will harden up some. And it'll harden up more using the super quench. So the heat treat on these is going to be quite simple. I'm going to heat my forge up. Blades are going to go in. As soon as they come up to temp, they're going to be quenched. They're going to be set aside to cool. So on a lower carbon steel like this, using the super quench, there won't be any tempering to it. It'll just be hardening it up to I think it's going to average like around 54 Rockwell, so it'll work. Not where I would want my, custom Bowie at, but this is not that nice. I got 6 left to go, guys. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so. Moving right along, guys. This one, I kind of like that down curve. I could even put a little bit of a false edge on that if I wanted. Clean that up. A few left. A little longer blade here. Kind of thick blade though. Three left, and guys, I'll tell you what, it's going to get real warm today. It's going to be over 90 degrees. I'm going to be running the Ford heat treatment. So if you're watching this in the comfort of climate-controlled, in a climate-controlled room, in a comfortable chair, on your couch, I envy you at this point. Even on these projects like this where I'm working a lot of pieces, I'm doing bulk production. Actually, my bulk here is actually more like small scale production. I assembly line what I'm doing, and then I make it a point to try to do a reasonable job. Maybe not the absolute best job. I could be polishing these up and everything. But as far as sweat equity is concerned, I want to do an equivalent job that is reflected in the desired outcome. Now these pieces right here, they're not going to bring me very much at all. And I mean, not much. I'm likely maybe $20 to $25 a piece on these, because what I do when I send these to a festival, I'm sending them for advertising. So I want to say, hey, I need X amount of money out of this piece. I need $25 out of this. You can sell it for 40. We've sold them for 60. So we can still make money on that, but at the same time, I'm not paying somebody to go. They're given that opportunity to make money by selling products. Last one. All right. Here we go. All right, last one, guys. I'm pretty happy with that. What's going to happen next is, yeah, it's one of those things. So what I've got coming up next, I've actually got my super quench, and I need to skim off at this point. So let me find a cup or something. Maybe I got something over here in the trash can. But what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to skim off part of the. I took out the trash, so I don't have it there. I could definitely use a cup of some sort. Skim this off. This has some dried linseed oil in it, but you can see how nasty that looks on top. But it's actually, that's kind of the worn part of the super quench. And you can see how it's that bright blue underneath. I'm just getting rid of the green. The green is used up. And I've quenched quite a bit. Quite a few blades in this. All right, we're back to blue. All right. Super quench is ready to go. So now comes the, I would say fun part, but it's really not, because I'm going to heat it up in here. It's going to be hotter than hell is what it's going to be. And I'm going to have, I don't know how many of these I've got to quench, but all of them. That's how many. There is a simple answer. How many? All of them. So what I want to do, I'm going to let that come up to temp, and then I'm going to put these in batches of 3. And then at some point I'm going to have to let the super quench cool down. There's my first batch of 3 right there. So this is a time-consuming process. It's necessary to make a hardened knife, especially out of this material. Now, if I was doing, let's say if I was doing this piece of raindrop Damascus, I don't know if you guys can see the pattern on that or not. If I was heat treating this, I would have to normalize. Then I would have to put it into soak, I would quench it, and then I would do multiple tempering cycles. With the real spikes, it's actually a lot simpler, as in it's a simple carbon steel. It is not a high carbon steel, but it is hardenable under certain circumstances, certain situations, certain scenarios, if you will. But when it comes down to it, these I will bring up to temperature and I will quench. Be no tempering. If it warps, I'll straighten it with a hammer. That's the wonderful thing about a shallow hardening steel like these spikes. It's fairly easy to do that correction. Now, in the past, and I will tell people this, that in the past I have taken these, I've oil quenched them, and I've tempered them. I did not really gain anything from it. I have water quenched them, I've brine quenched them. And super quench seems to do the best as far as how do I harden this blade. That's going to take a little bit for those to come up to temp, and the temperature of my forge has just dropped drastically because realistically, I've introduced literally cold steel into a hot forge. So what does that do? Okay, if anyone's ever taken and put an ice cube in maybe a bowl of soup or a cup of coffee or something like, or hot tea, something to cool it down, similar process because you're having that temperature even out. Now the one advantage I have to this is that it will even out on temp, and it will start to climb once everything's fairly even. Once that refractory is up to temperature, a wonderful thing will happen. And that wonderful thing is that it's going to start radiating heat. It's going to be radiating heat back into the forge. It will already be radiating heat back into the forge. So, in the meantime, I can look around and see what else do I have. Right here, I have this spring steel blade I was working on. It definitely needs needs to be fixed up, but that could make a cool primitive knife. So I may work on this one. I've got some blades in the tomahawk head up here that need to be heat treated anyway. And I'd like to get a batch up together. Look what I found. I found another horseshoe. Damn horseshoe. They never cease. They keep coming. Start working up more projects. I'm also very soon going to be forging more blades for Robbie Bowman's grudge match at the Smoky Mountain Forging Festival, October 17th through 19th in Sevierville, Tennessee. Now those are starting to come up to temperature. Now something interesting is going to happen. As I remove material from the forge, it is going to increase the temperature. Why? Because I've removed that lower temp item, and it's going to allow that refractory to heat more. And this is going to accelerate my process on how fast I can heat my blades or whatever material I'm heating in the forge. So this is just going to be a process where I go back and forth for a bit. Now, we'll be putting those into this tub somehow. I need a good way to set this tub up. I got an idea. I don't know that it's a good idea, but it is an idea. And I think once if I can get the weight down here, this should hold it. I think that'll be okay. So it hasn't been very long. I've got one piece that is just about up to temperature. So as I bring it out, the next one will come up to temp more so because I'm removing that colder material, and more heat is available to heat what I put in there. Now, expect something similar when I add the next three as what previously happened, and that's going to be that the temperature of that forge is going to drop some, but each time it gains higher temps, it's going to drop when I introduce cold material. However, the refractory will have gained heat, and it's going to gradually raise that temperature in the forge. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do it. And I want to show you guys, here's my super quench. It's got some of that nasty scum on top right now. I want to heat this just a little bit more. relatively violent reaction, really, you know. Okay, blade stayed fairly straight. Blown the scale off. All right, put this to the side. My next piece is coming up to temp. Turn my pressure up a little bit. Now it's also going to heat that forge a little better because now it can actually wrap around, that plate can wrap around inside. I'm kind of choking it down, putting that much material in it at a time. So I can look at this as I get them quenched, as I get them cleaned up, as I get them sharpened. That's, what am I gaining? Okay? Let's say I'm going to hit a low after consumables at $20 per. Okay? Well, I know I've got at least 100 of these. So that's going to gain me $2,000. Okay. Realistically, what is $2,000? $2,000 is not a lot. However, people buying these, picking up my business cards, that's where I'm going to be gaining my money at. Because that person who came in and bought that knife for 40 or 60 bucks, however much the vendor's going to sell it for, back come Christmas time, they might get a hold of me and say, hey, you got any hunting knives for 250 bucks? I do. That's going to increase my business. That's going to increase my sales. That's going to increase my ability to reinvest into my company, my business, and so forth. So the other thing I want to look at is if I take $2,000, I end up with $2,000 profit, and I take what does that get me? That gets me a couple months worth of abrasive belts. That gets me more steel, like some high carbon stock. That gets me more pewter for doing my pewter pours, which I have a fair amount of, but I'm going to need more. It gives me more handle material. The important thing is to reinvest into what you are doing, okay? I also got to keep an eye on my stuff right here, so it's, when it comes up to temp, I'm ready to go. But what that does essentially is it allows me to grow my business, to grow as an individual, and also to have something that's very, very important. Some people are going to go, that's going to be money, right? Money is important because that's how we pay bills, that's how we make transactions and so forth. However, what is more important is freedom. Freedom is very important. And I have the freedom to grow my business, to spend time with friends and family, to do things like that. Things I couldn't do when I was younger. And, yeah. What can I say there? So anyway, we brush this out just a little bit. Probably should put some oil or more conditioner in it this morning. So what I'm going to do I mean, if I average this out, I got 13 of those done, and now I started heat treating. We're just under an hour. But 13 of them, $260, not very much. But it's still not bad per hour. So, even if you do like I did, I started as kind of as a hobby, and then it became more than a hobby because it made me more money than working for somebody else, and I also didn't have to deal with people having power trips and everything else. But what I can say is that if you start a side business, some people call it a side hustle, hey, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. That is, that's your choice. Okay, better plan. I'm going to throw these on the floor. If you start something, what you're crafting as a side business, as a side hustle, whatever you want to call it, you can grow that. You can make more money. You can have disposable income. But reinvest. Reinvest in yourself. Reinvest in your business. Control your life. That's what I'm going to say. It's important to reinvest. Now, when I started, I said, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a 25-25-50 or 50-25-25. 50% reinvest. 25% payout, 25% savings. Well, what I found was I modified that mindset. I modified that business structure to pay off as much as I could. Get rid of the overhead. Worked wonders. Then I started doing the reinvest more so. Although you've always got something to reinvest. You got consumables. Those consumables cost money, and if you don't replace them, it will cost you more money trying to run dull belts than it will if you actually just go buy them. Buy some more belts. I need 36s and I definitely need some 120s. Investing. What is investing? Investing to me is taking money or time or effort. It's not just money. It can be taking something or an idea and putting it towards an idea or a physical something that exists in the physical world. Okay, so like what exists in the physical world for me? Hammering, lots of hammering. Well, you know what? Investing in a power hammer and a press greatly increases my productivity. It also reduces wear and tear on my body. So it's a good investment in not only the business but myself. A lot of people thinking of investing as long-term. Well, when you're retirement age, don't ever think that you're going to live to retirement age. I've had a lot of friends and family who didn't. Long-term investment is important, but it's a lot like going, if you do this now in 2 weeks or 2 years, you can eat supper. I happen to like to eat supper about every night, so I also need return on something. A lot of people think that an immediate return is out of the question. It's not possible. It is absolutely possible. It is how you manage it. And it depends upon what you're looking for in that return. So this is coming up to town. And I'll probably quench these 3, and then I'll find something else to do for a bit. But if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so. And be sure to check out the links in the description, as well as any other thing that might be of interest. Perhaps some of my other videos, some of the builds, some of the live streams, some of the shorts. If you like outdoors, if you like knives, if you like guns, hunting, just different things like that, check them out. Tell your friends. It's much appreciated. Coming up to 10, not there yet. This is going to be kind of a long process, so I doubt anybody wants to stay on here for hours at a time, although it's happened before. Once more, if you haven't liked and subscribed, now's a great time to do so. I've got more builds coming up, and if anybody's got any questions, post a question. I'll be glad to answer it. In the very near future, we're going to be doing some more reviews on other blacksmithing equipment, and we'll also be doing some builds. If you like builds, check out Forge Your Memory Family. Link in the description. You can go there. There's actually builds. It's a full instruction that you can watch and you can learn. And I highly recommend it. It's worth at least one try. Alright guys, last one. Quenched in my super quench. Looking okay. Once more, thanks for joining me. We've got more videos coming up. Catch you in a few. Later.